In Syria, ISIS and the Caliphate by Paul Sutliff. This short video was made because many people do not understand what is happening in Iraq and Syria. The first thing you need to know is the name of the group that has taken over much of Iraq and Syria. The group of terrorists call themselves ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Their leader is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Interestingly, President Obama has another name for the group. He calls them ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. It's important to understand the term Levant. Levant is a pre-World War I term that refers mostly to the eastern coast of the Mediterranean. Now, why would President Obama, the man who is leader of the United States, call a group of terrorists something they do not call themselves? What right does he have to call them something different? If we go back 2 years and refer to an article in WorldNet Daily, you can begin to grasp why Obama thinks he has the right to name this group. The article by WND refers to Safawi, a town in Jordan where U.S. military advisors were assigned by the president to train Syrian fighters to combat Assad's regime. WND was not alone in documenting this. The German weekly Der Spiegel reported this in March of 2013, and the UK Guardian also followed up writing an article. Sadly, no major media outlets in the United States informed the people. But there is more. ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was captured and detained by U.S. troops at Camp Bucca. According to the FBI wanted poster, he claimed responsibility for an attack that killed 24 policemen and wounded 72 others. And as leader of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, aka EQI, he was responsible for a wave of suicide attacks that began in Mosul, Iraq, and culminated in over 70 deaths. He had pledged to carry out 100 attacks across Iraq as retaliation of bin Laden's death. Anyone questioning why this man was not put in Guantanamo? But Obama emptied Camp Bucca, releasing everyone. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi said something to the guards that day that I will share later. Abu left with nothing. Somehow, he ended up leading the rebel forces that Iran and other countries are claiming was trained by the United States Special Forces. Now, ISIS controls most of Iraq and Syria. Since the name was Islamic State of Syria and Iraq, you would think the group would be happy with taking both. But if they are ISIL, they are far from done. Add on to this al-Baghdadi as now self-declared caliph, the picture gets much broader. If others accept Baghdadi as caliph, this is what the Islamic State will look like, I'm predicting, in 10 to 20 years. ISIS uses social media like a major media news outlet. ISIS supporters hold many Twitter accounts that tweet ISIS-related material from killings to recruitment. They also use Facebook to share their exploits and pictures. And of course, they use YouTube to share conquests of violence. I have seen some horrific abuses of this group to Christians and Jews. But this isn't happening only to Christians and Jews. The killings are of Muslims who are Shiites or simply Muslims they considered bad for not joining them in the jihad. According to CCTV, another ISIS tool was used to expand its presence on social media. It was an Arabic language app that was available for a period of time on the Google Play Store in April of 2014. This app was called the Dawn of Glad Tidings and was an ISIS product that was advertised as a way to keep informed of their activities. Once users installed the app, it was automatically post ISIS material to the user's Twitter account. The Atlantic reported that at its peak, the day that they stormed the Iraq city of Mosul, they posted almost 40,000 tweets. According to the media, the app has been removed from the Google Play Store. ISIS's use of social media was so good that when they ran a Million Muslim campaign. They can now be seen to have supporters in New York City, in Chicago, Holland, Belgium, Spain, Germany, Indonesia, Netherlands, Turkey, France, Italy, the United Kingdom, and many more places in the world. Even Muslim women have a duty here. In Mosul, when they took it, they placed this poster all over. It says, "We request that the people of this state offer their unmarried women so that they can fulfill their duty of jihad by sex to their brotherly mujahideen. Failure to comply with this mandate will result in enforcing the laws of Sharia upon them." If you're wondering how this is possible under Islam, Google Sharia and sex jihad, or Quran and sex jihad. What you learn will shock and horrify you. The Caliphate established. The last Caliphate ended in March of 1924. But in March of this year, there was a trial run to establish the Caliphate, and it was done through a Twitter hashtag that was done in Arabic. It simply said, "We demand Sheikh Al-Baghdadi declare the Caliphate." Interestingly, on June 29th, that was exactly what happened. He did declare himself the new Islamic Caliph. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi said the following on June 29th when he declared himself Caliph. "Here the flag of the Islamic State, the flag of Tawhid, rises and flutters. Its shade covers land from Aleppo to Diyala. Beneath it, the walls of tyrants had been demolished. Their flags have fallen and their borders have been destroyed. Their soldiers have either been killed, imprisoned, or defeated. The Muslims are honored. The Kafir, unbelievers, are disgraced. Allah-Sunnah, the Sunnis, are masters and are esteemed. The people of Bida, the forbidden religious innovation, are humiliated. The Adud, Quranic punishments, are implemented. The front lines are defended. Crosses and graves are demolished. Prisoners are released by the edge of the sword. The people in the lands of the state move about their livelihood and journeys feeling safe regarding their lives and wealth. Ulama, governors and judges have been appointed. Jizya, the poll tax levied on non-Muslims living in Muslim lands, have been enforced. A kind of booty taken from the Muslim enemies, and zakat, alms paid by the Muslims, have been collected. Courts have been established to resolve disputes and complaints. Evil has been removed. Lessons and classes have been held in the mosques. By the grace of Allah, the religion has become completely for Allah. He also said, "So rush, O Muslims, gather around your Caliph, so that you may return as you once were for ages, kings of the earth and knights of war. Come, so that you may be honored and esteemed, living as masters with dignity. By Allah, if you disbelieve in democracy, secularism, nationalism, as well as all the other garbage and ideas from the West, and rush to your religion and creed, then by Allah you will own the earth, and the East and West will submit to you. This is the promise of Allah to you." Caliph al-Baghdadi said one more thing that has many people concerned. He said, "As for you, old soldiers of the platoons and organizations, know that after this consolidation and establishment of the Caliphate, the legality of your groups and organizations has become invalid. It is not permissible for a single person of you who believes in Allah to sleep without having loyalty to the Caliph. If your leaders whisper to you, claiming it is not a caliphate, then remember how long they whispered to you, claiming that it was not a state, but rather a fictional cardboard entity, until its certain news reached you. It is a state. Its news will continue to reach you, showing that it is a caliphate, even if after time. And know that nothing has delayed victory, and delays it now more than these organizations, because they are the cause of division and disagreements that ruin strength. Division is not from Islam at all. This statement requires all Muslim groups to submit to the Caliph. This places him in charge of all jihad in the world. Groups such as Al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood, Ansar al-Sharia, and many more Islamic terrorist groups would all have to submit their leadership underneath this man. Has ISIS become simply the Islamic State? Well, according to European news services, ISIS is now under the Islamic State and is operating as its army. On June 16th, ISIS took over a chemical weapons depot at Al-Matana, which is a chemical weapons complex. It was actually one of those pieces of WMD that had thousands of tons stored here. However, President Bush decided that it would be safer not to reveal its location or any information regarding this. We're talking about mustard gas and MPC and DMMP production and CS storage. We're talking about multiple weapons of mass destruction that President Bush decided it would be better to protect his troops who were guarding this by not saying anything about what he found. However, President Obama decided it was important to abandon this. ISIS now has control of these weapons. Ansar al-Sharia gave a quasi-endorsement to the Caliphate. Just before it was declared, they said that the success of ISIS should unify the jihadists around the world. On July 3rd of this year, Saudi Arabia sent 30,000 men to the Iraqi border. King Abdullah sent these men there after 2,500 Iraqi soldiers abandoned their post. His goal is to protect the border from any terrorist threat. On June 27th, Lieutenant Colonel Anan Abbas, Deputy Commander of the Golan Brigade, reported to Israel's Channel 10 that the majority of the Syrian side of the Golan is in the hands of anti-Assad rebels, including radical Islamic groups such as Al-Nusra Front, which is affiliated with Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. Now, is this the only area that Israel has to be concerned? No. Israel is also facing difficulties in Gaza. Hamas it was just recently written about by Gatestone Institute as having difficulties and possibly losing grasp to ISIS in the Gaza Strip. Hamas prevented local journalists from covering an ISIS rally in June as part of an effort to deny the existence of ISIS in the Gaza Strip. But Hamas seems to be trying to cover the sun with one finger, according to Gatestone Institute. The Gaza Strip is no longer only a threat to Israel, but also to Egypt. The only way to confront this threat, according to Gatestone Institute, is through security cooperation between Israel and Egypt. There are a few things that we need to watch for. One of them is if Al-Qaeda or the Ikhwan, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, accepts this caliph. If one or the other accepts them as caliph, it's most likely that both will. Will Al-Qaeda submit to the new caliph? It may want to watch and see if the Islamic State does all it says it will, and if it will actually last. If Al-Qaeda does not submit, it looks like it may be trying to divide Islam rather than unite it. So Al-Qaeda could be blamed for a lot of problems then. Under a new caliph, Al-Qaeda could become akin to a special ops team. And lastly, if Al-Qaeda does not submit, it could lead to the ultimate split and destruction of the newly declared caliph. Does anybody know exactly what's happened? In Muslim terms, the only way we'll find out is inshallah, as Allah wills it. Will the Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood, submit to this caliph? There's a lot of questions on this. Let's look at what happens if they don't. The Muslim Brotherhood have infiltrated more governments. Why would they give up that power? It would mean giving up control of a worldwide operation and infiltration. It would also mean revealing who and what they are in order to move from a civilization jihad to actual violence. Will the Ikhwan submit? And if we look at that and we say they do, then we have to remember, Hamas is then run by the Caliph. The CARE, ISNA, Muslim Student Association, MPAC, IIIT, ICNA, all these alphabet soup organizations that are run by the Muslim Brotherhood would then have to submit to the Caliph. The scary thing here is if they do submit, it could activate jihadists in almost every country in the world, including several hundred here in the United States. But will the Muslim Brotherhood submit to this new caliph? Again, in the words of their phrasing, inshallah, as Allah wills it. Is ISIS or the Islamic State a threat to the United States? Well, let's think about the Muslims who leave the United States to fight in jihad and return. There have been about 100 Muslims that have left so far that we are being told about. Most of them are Somali. They've joined up with ISIS and are engaging in jihad. When they return, they're more likely to have difficulties agreeing and accepting things that do not go along with Sharia, Islamic law. Secondly, Abu Bakr Al-Baghdadi did say something when he was released. Some people took it as a threat. Some people took it as recognition of who wasn't taking care of him when he was in the prison. He simply said, "I will see you in New York." Is it a threat? It's certainly something to think about.